Corpse Palace entrance. They found Sif's location? How is that possible? Hela glanced at the position of the underworld bone dragon, her brows tightly furrowed. Loki, having lost half his divine power, was retreating step by step under Thor's fierce assault. He backed up behind Hela, his expression extremely unpleasant. Did you seek Frigga's prophecy? Or did you ally with the three goddesses? No, impossible. I know Frigga's condition very well. She's currently incapable of prophesying, and the three goddesses have been in seclusion, even less likely to help you. Thor, did you find help from other divine realms? Thor spoke coldly. Asgard's internal affairs can only be resolved by Asgard. I have not colluded with any foreign gods. Hearing this, Loki frowned. Just then, a pale yellow tide of divine power surged from the distance. Is that Sif? Thor sensed this aura, his expression brightening as his form transformed into a bolt of lightning darting forward. The war god Tyr followed closely behind. Soon, on the desolate and cold earth, Sif appeared before the two, covered in wounds. Sif barely supported her body, divine power surging around her, struggling to resist the underworld bone dragon's attacks. Behind her were Lin Chia and number 22, whom she was protecting. Although this was her first meeting with Lin Chia, his actions to rescue her from the dungeon at the risk of his life had already maximized her goodwill toward him. Now free from her restraints, she couldn't possibly watch Lin Chia be killed by the underworld bone dragon. Sif. Thor's eyes quickly brightened upon seeing that figure. He glanced at the nearby underworld bone dragon, the fury in his eyes igniting again as he suddenly raised his silver hammer. A lightning bolt struck the hammer's tip, and with a powerful swing of his right arm. With a thunderous boom, the thick lightning shattered half of the bone dragon's body, tiny bone fragments flying everywhere. Thor, wearing his red cape like a war god, wielded lightning to gradually disintegrate the bone dragon's body. In just over 10 seconds he had completely pulverized it. After this utterly one-sided battle, the lightning around Thor gradually faded. He put away his silver hammer and quickly walked towards Sif. Thor. Sif embraced him, her eyes reddening. How did you find this place? Thor stroked her back while looking toward Lin Chia in the distance. Thanks to Miles. How are your injuries? I'm fine, just some flesh wounds. Before Sif could say more, several giant shadows converged from all directions. Somehow, the city-destroying corpse mountains had moved near them, their pairs of eerie green eyes staring at them strangely. One of the city-destroying corpse mountains seemed to be chewing something in its giant mouth, and after a moment, it spat out a mangled piece of flesh onto the ground. Judging by the clothing and body type, it was Hoda, or part of him. Hoda's body had been divided into who knows how many pieces and swallowed by these city-destroying corpse mountains. This piece before them was only about 1/3 of the original. The good news was that these city-destroying corpse mountains apparently lacked the power of laws and couldn't completely erase Hoda. But the bad news was that Hoda's current state was little different from being dead. Even if placed in Asgard's sacred spring, it was unclear how long it would take to restore him to his original form. Thor's expression was extremely grim. He and Tyr hoisted Hoda's incomplete body and turned to look at a certain point in the void. The forms of Loki and Hela were gradually materializing. Thor. Loki's slender eyes swept over Sif in Thor's arms as he spoke coldly. Even if you rescue Sif, it changes nothing. You've seen the power of these city-destroying corpse mountains. If I wish, I could destroy half of Asgard at any time. You cannot compete with me. Thor's fists clenched tightly, but he had no intention of arguing further. He knew very well that he and Tyr were no match for Loki, Hela, and these 12 monsters. The best option now was to leave this place first. Go. Lightning sparked from the void around Thor, quickly covering Lin Chia and the others. At the same time, the scepter, in number 22's hand, finally lost its effect, and two streams of divine power crossed space, about to return to Loki and Hela's bodies. Seeing this, Loki made no move to stop them. No one understood Thor better than he did. If Thor truly went berserk here, things would be worse than imagined. He could compete with Thor for the throne, but he could not kill Thor or Asgard would surely fall into chaos. But at that moment something unexpected happened. The shadow beneath war god Tyr's feet suddenly shifted strangely. A form like smoke silently crossed space, arriving behind Loki before the divine power streams could reach him. That semi-transparent figure raised its hand, and an ancient dagger gleaming with cold light stabbed ghost-like toward Loki's heart. He moved too fast, and before this no one had sensed his existence. Even Tyr, one of Asgard's principal gods, had not detected that someone was hiding in his shadow. Loki felt a chill on his back and tried to weave a trick, but it was too late. The ancient dagger easily penetrated Loki's back, pierced his heart, and the sharp blade tip broke through his chest skin, splattering crimson blood on the ground. Only then did the smoke-like figure gradually reveal its true form. It was a figure wearing a black cloak with a wide hood. With one hand gripping the dagger in reverse, he twisted forcefully, instantly shredding Loki's heart. Loki's terrified eyes gradually dispersed, finally becoming hollow. But it wasn't over. The figure's other hand reached under the cloak and produced another dagger. Reversing its edge, he slashed across Loki's neck with lightning speed. Blood sprayed as the head fell to the ground. At this moment, the divine power streams flying through the air finally returned to the headless Loki's body, but everything was too late. This figure's timing was incredibly precise. Just as Thor and the others were about to retreat, as the divine power was about to return, and right when Loki was most relaxed after an exhausting battle. One strike to the heart, one to sever the head. The entire process was without the slightest hesitation, clean and ruthless. Even now, Hela, who was right next to Loki, and Thor's group, who were preparing to flee, had not yet processed what happened. Blood soaked the figure's black cloak as he pulled the two daggers from Loki's body and tucked them back into his sleeves. A gentle breeze brushed against the black cloak, and on the wide brim of the hood, two deliberately erased numbers were faintly visible. That is, Lin Chia's heart trembled when he saw that familiar hood. Is it him? He actually infiltrated Asgard too? Thor stared blankly at the headless corpse, collapsing to the ground with his pupils involuntarily contracting. From Loki's appearance to the moment his head fell, this twist completely exceeded Thor's understanding. He could never have imagined that Loki would have his head cut off at this moment. After a moment, he came back to his senses and looked at the figure standing in the shadows, his eyes blazing with endless fury. Who are you? Loki was his political enemy, his arch-nemesis, someone Thor hated to the bone, but regardless, he was also one of Asgard's principal gods, able to stand as Thor's equal, and was once Father Odin's most trusted subordinate. Even if Thor eventually became the God King, he would never kill Loki, and similarly he believed that if Loki became God King, he would never kill him either. Although they were always at odds, there was an unspoken understanding between them on this matter. Asgard could not exist without Thor, nor could it exist without Loki, just as the world cannot exist without light and darkness. For Loki to be so easily assassinated before him by an unknown entity was undoubtedly a provocation against him and all of Asgard. Raging thunder surged forth, rolling toward the figure standing in the shadows, but there was someone whose speed exceeded Thor's. Hela, with a grim expression, made a grasping motion in the air toward that figure. Several elongated skeletal arms broke through the ground, grabbing his ankles like lightning, firmly pinning him to the ground. Bang! A skeletal beast immediately emerged from underground, its tunnel-sized mouth snapping down violently, seemingly intending to crush him to pieces. The shadowy figure first reached out to touch Loki's head, drawing it under his cloak, then materialized two short blades in his hands, their cold gleam cutting through the skeletal arms. His form spun half a circle in place, eerily tearing through space to appear on a boulder hundreds of meters away. The skeletal beast failed to capture his form, but the lightning in midair sharply changed angle, instantly blasting the shadow and the boulder beneath him to pieces. The shadow tumbled out from the lightning explosion, his form flickering before transforming into a hazy mist, quickly disappearing into the horizon. Tyr, take them and leave first. Thor transformed into lightning and rapidly gave chase, with Hela hesitating for a moment before following closely behind. As several figures successively vanished into the horizon, deathly silence once again fell over the palace of corpses. Tyr frowned deeply, stepping forward to crouch beside Loki's headless body, narrowing his eyes as if carefully observing something. Nearby, number 22, who had witnessed the entire process, seemed to realize something and looked at Lin Chia in shock. Isn't that guy? Lin Chia gave him a look and number 22 immediately closed his mouth. Perhaps the gods of Asgard didn't recognize that shadow, but Lin Chia would never forget. Back in the mist, Lin Chia had made a deal with him. Lin Chia would help him find someone and he would help Lin Chia kill a god. And his target was Loki. Lin Chia's mind replayed the scene of number 27 killing Loki and he was terrified. At the time, number 27 had said that anyone below the Supreme could be killed. Lin Chia had been skeptical, but after witnessing the entire process of him killing Loki, Lin Chia was left with nothing but profound shock and confusion. This number 27, what was his background? How did he hide in Tyr's shadow without anyone noticing? Sif, the goddess of harvest, walked to Tyr's side and asked, "How is it?" Tyr shook his head. "Loki doesn't die that easily." "Are you sure?" "His head was cut off," Sif couldn't help saying. "Even when the moral celestial of Great Xia struck with his sword, it didn't completely kill him, let alone now?" Tyr slowly stood up, coldly smiling as he spoke. "If I'm not mistaken, he probably set up another substitution ritual somewhere else. He's like a cockroach you can't squash. Every time you think you've won, he pulls out another trump card." Tyr raised his chin, pointing at the headless corpse on the ground. "Don't believe me? Look." Sif looked down and saw that the blood-soaked headless corpse was beginning to dissipate at a visible rate, exposing white bones. These bones varied in length and thickness, seemingly from different people's bodies, eerily strange. Seeing this, Lin Chia and number 22's expressions also changed. Even at this point, Loki had still managed to escape? Was this guy immortal or something? "It's too dangerous here. Let's go back first." Tyr glanced at the now silent city of corpses around them, then led Lin Chia, number 22 and Sif away, transforming into a streak of light. Asgard. The human circle. In the center of the mountain of corpses, a divine symbol outlined by black threads gradually lit up, like an eye slowly opening, or like a ferocious snake's mouth. Suddenly, black threads frantically swept across the flesh of the surrounding corpses. The nearly 10,000 bodies piled in this slaughterhouse visibly shriveled, while simultaneously, a man's form rapidly materialized from the void. A breeze swept through the slaughterhouse, carrying the ashes of 10,000 corpses upward like a bloody dark cloud rising into the sky. The figure suspended in the air suddenly opened his eyes, his pale face filled with terror and confusion. Who was it? Loki's memory was still fixed on the moment when number 27 pierced his heart and cut off his head. He hadn't seen the person's appearance, but that cold, murderous aura clung to his heart like a nightmare. That aura was definitely not something an ordinary god could possess. Moreover, thinking carefully, this incident was full of suspicious points. The most crucial question was, how did Thor know that Sif was hidden by him in the underworld? And if he came to the underworld to rescue someone, why bring two humans? Was it coincidence that those two humans found where Sif was imprisoned, or was there another reason? Loki's chest heaved violently. It took him a long time to calm down and take a deep breath as he looked around. Another substitution array consumed. I need to replenish it. 2 million lives consumed in half a year. I wonder how many more worthless commoners are left to kill in this human circle. Loki temporarily put aside the matter of number 27. His form shifted, transforming into a tall, thin mortal wearing sacred church robes, and he walked straight out of the slaughterhouse. Outside the slaughterhouse there was a narrow, old street. The street as a whole resembled a Western medieval style, but the difference was that the houses here were extremely dilapidated, with spider webs covering almost the entire surface of buildings on both sides. The decaying, moldy exterior walls emitted a nauseating odor. On the uneven cobblestone road, several emaciated figures in tattered clothes walked with difficulty. Each of them had a basket hanging from their arm, covered with a white cloth, concealing unknown contents. When they saw the figure wearing sacred robes slowly approaching from the end of the street, their vacant and dazed eyes suddenly contracted. Thud. Without any hesitation, they fell to their knees before Loki in the middle of the street. Their foreheads pressed hard against the uneven road as they laboriously moved their knees, shifting their prostrate bodies bit by bit toward the sides of the street, clearing the center of the road as if afraid their bodies might block his path. Loki didn't even glance at these humans as he walked straight through several streets, amid countless people kneeling in worship, until he arrived at a towering church. Unlike the densely packed old medieval buildings surrounding it, This church stood at the center of the city, but within a kilometer radius, not a single building existed. The luxurious, grand exterior walls of the church gleamed in the sunlight, dazzling like jewels. Loki walked directly to the church entrance, climbed the steps and pushed open the door. Behind the heavy doors was a long corridor paved with obsidian. A few men also wearing religious robes stood at the edge of the corridor, loudly laughing about something. When they caught sight of Loki entering through the door, their expressions changed simultaneously. "Your Holiness." The men bowed respectfully in unison as if wanting to bury their heads in the ground. Loki gave them a faint glance. "Where is Bishop Lance?" He went to the East City to spread the teachings," one of the men answered. Loki frowned slightly. "Now how many people are in the city?" "A total of 39,962 people. Including pregnant women?" "What?" The man was stunned. "Pregnant women and the children in their wombs should be counted as 2 people, Loki calmly stated. The man hesitated for a moment. "If counted that way, there should be 40,000 in total." 40,000. Loki's eyes narrowed as he slowly spoke. "I have a task for you." Outside the church. In a low building at the edge of the vacuum zone surrounding the church, a man standing by the window slowly lowered his telescope. "Loki has appeared in the human circle, again. Has something happened in Asgard?" Lung Xian muttered to himself. He paced around the room for a moment, then pushed open the door, wrapped himself in a cloak and quickly headed in a certain direction. As he advanced, the surrounding houses became increasingly sparse, with wild grass covering the ground. Before he knew it, he had left the edge of the city. After crossing 2 not-so-high hills, a green lake appeared before him. The lake wasn't large, resembling an emerald embedded between hard rock formations, with its edges visible at a glance. Looking down through the green water, rugged and strange rock layers extended downward, seemingly endless, gradually disappearing into the deep water like a bottomless hole. No one knew what the other end of the lake connected to. Lung Xian reached behind his waist and a dagger appeared in his hand. He crouched down beside a rock at the edge of the green lake and used the dagger to carve a series of marks. Some were dots, some were lines intertwining chaotically and disorderly. Reflected in the mirror image of the lake, they were incomprehensible. After finishing these markings, Lung Xian stood up from beside the rock and casually picked a red flower from the nearby forest, lightly tossing it onto the lake's surface. The crimson petals scattered across the green water, spinning with the breeze, but didn't sink at all. Lung Xian glanced at the deep, dark bottom of the lake, then turned and left. Asgard. Tyr brought Lin Chia and the others down in front of a temple. "Sif, go rest first. I'll have someone come treat your wounds," Tyr said gently to the injured Sif beside him. Sif nodded, then Tyr turned to Lin Chia and number 22, saying sternly, "As for you, back to the cage." "Why put them in a cage?" Before Lin Chia could speak, Sif asked in confusion. "Wasn't he helping you rescue me?" Tyr paused, hesitantly explaining, "Because their background is still unclear, so—" "Lord Tyr," Lin Chia suddenly interrupted, his face somewhat gloomy. "To help Lord Thor rescue Sif, I've already made a second prophecy at the cost of my lifespan. Just now, if it weren't for me, you might not have been able to leave the underworld safely. Now that you've successfully rescued her, you still want to lock me up again? In your eyes, are we just tools to be discarded at any time? Is this Lord Thor's magnanimity?" Tyr's attitude was more rigorous than Lin Chia had imagined. Even though he had helped them rescue Sif, he hadn't fully gained Tyr's trust. However, when Lin Chia brought up Thor, Tyr began to hesitate. He knew Thor's character. Since Lin Chia had helped rescue Sif, Thor would never kick him while he was down. And undeniably, they had successfully rescued Sif because of Lin Chia. His prophecy ability could bring great benefits, and if they continued to restrict them because of the stubborn memorial in the dungeon, it would be a loss for Thor as well. After much deliberation, Tyr decided to take a relatively compromised approach between risk and caution. Tyr's gaze sharpened as he raised his sword, slashing lightning-fast wounds the size of a fingernail on the shoulders of both Lin Chia and number 22. Fine droplets of blood seeped out, strangely congealing on the skin's surface, sealing off subsequent bleeding. The sword strike was too fast. Lin Chia instinctively wanted to transform into darkness to avoid it, but rationality controlled his body, preventing him from exposing his true form. He covered the wound on his shoulder, stepped back abruptly, and looked at Tyr with an extremely unpleasant expression. Lord Tyr, what is the meaning of this? My sword has memorized the taste of your blood. No matter where you run, I can find you. During this time, you may move freely in Asgard, but don't try any tricks, Tyr said calmly as he sheathed his sword. Also, don't provoke other gods, especially Loki. With those words, Tyr took the scepter from number 22's hand and vanished, going to find a god skilled in healing for Sif. Seeing this, Lin-Chia let out a long breath. Regardless of the process, the first step in Asgard had been taken. Seeing Tyr leave, number 22 also breathed a sigh of relief, moving closer to Lin-Chia and smiling. As expected of you, Myers. You actually got him to release us so quickly, but... He paused, looking down at the sword wound on his shoulder with slightly furrowed brows. However, this wound is indeed troublesome. Tyr's sword remembers the scent of our blood, and no matter where we run, he will track us down. It's a pity. If the Holy Grail were here, just one wish would quickly solve such a small trick. Lin-Chia spoke expressionlessly. You have to eat one bite at a time. Being able to temporarily escape from the cage is already a good start, especially since the Rainbow Bridge is now broken and all of Asgard is completely sealed off. Even without this wound, we couldn't escape. Then what do we do next? There's no way out, we can only take it one step at a time, Lin-Chia said calmly. Although we can't leave, we're not in any mortal danger here. If we wait a bit longer, perhaps there will be a turning point. Number 22 nodded silently. By the way, what's the deal with number 27? Why did he appear in Asgard? Is he actually a god too? Number 22 asked curiously, recalling how number 27 had instantly killed Loki. I don't know who he is either, but for now it's best not to reveal that we know him. Otherwise, there will be even more suspicious points about us. Yes, that's true. The two walked along the road in front of the temple for a while without speaking further. Now that they could move freely outside the cage, both of their minds became more active. Finally, Lin-Chia spoke first. You go tend to your wound. I'll look around. Number 22 was silent for a moment, then nodded. All right, I'll go first. They smiled at each other as they said goodbye. Then Lin-Chia walked straight ahead along Asgard's main road. Watching Lin-Chia's figure gradually disappear, number 22's eyes narrowed slightly. Trying to shake me off? I want to see what tricks you have up your sleeve. Number 22 knew very well that although they were outwardly polite to each other, deep down they both wanted to kill each other. Lin-Chia's actions in the underworld earlier had shown this. The difference between them was that Lin-Chia could directly find an opportunity to kill number 22 and keep his secrets, while number 22 had to rely on Lin-Chia to leave Asgard first, and then find a way to kill him. Without Lin-Chia, it would be nearly impossible for number 22 to escape Asgard alone. From his position, number 22 was already firmly at a disadvantage against Lin-Chia. If he continued to let Lin-Chia gain more initiative, he would be completely at his mercy. Number 22 broke off one of his own fingers and flicked it away. The bloody fingertip quickly morphed into a ball of flesh, splitting into several bean-sized insects that followed after Lin-Chia. Lin-Chia walked along the roads of Asgard without drawing much attention. Asgard wasn't populated solely by gods. More precisely, the number of deities in this divine realm was quite rare. The majority here were handmaidens and guards serving various gods. It was like the ancient dynasties of Great Xia, where the actual royal family members living in the palace were few, while most were servants attending to these royals. Handmaidens, eunuchs, guards, family games. Looking around, Lin-Chia saw many handmaidens in gauzy clothes moving quickly along both sides of the road. Their power levels weren't high, mostly around the river realm. Some carried elegant divine clothes, others baskets of sweet fruits, all appearing quite busy. The guards of the Nordic War Division, riding on horseback and speeding past, were mostly at the infinite, or even Klein levels. Besides these, there were also humans clearly from the outside world like Lin-Chia, though few in number. They all wore unapproachable expressions. If Lin-Chia wasn't mistaken, they were the proxies of Asgard's gods. Lin-Chia's gaze sharpened as if he sensed something, glancing behind him from the corner of his eye. Was someone watching him? Though he hadn't used his spiritual power to sense around him, this feeling of being observed gave Lin-Chia an instinctive discomfort. After a moment's hesitation, he cautiously extended his spiritual power bit by bit, searching his surroundings without alerting any deities. Finally, several small fleshy insects appeared within his sensing range. Number 22. This guy really was persistent. Lin Chia inwardly sneered. Pretending not to notice, he continued walking along the main road with his hands in his pockets, occasionally turning corners, stopping, or curiously looking around, like a genuinely aimless tourist. Is he really just looking around? Number 22 wondered, watching clearly through those small fleshy insects. He certainly didn't know that in Lin Chia's brain, every street he walked was being verified against and overlaid with the map he had memorized earlier. He was planning his route of action. From Thor's temple to the Miracle Square to the Rainbow Bridge. In his mind, he constantly simulated how, after obtaining the Holy Rainbow Sword, he could rush from any corner of Asgard to the Rainbow Bridge in the fastest way possible, where he might encounter enemies, which terrains might be advantageous to him, and which places were dead ends. Although he didn't yet have a concrete plan to obtain the Holy Rainbow Sword, whether to steal it, trick someone, or take it by force, he had to prepare for the worst. Another crucial reason was that he needed to find the dungeon where Jin Yan was being held. Lin Chia passed through 2 streets and slowly stopped in front of a dark, gloomy temple. More than 20 members of the Nordic War Division, clad in black armor and standing 7 or 8 meters tall, guarded the temple like massive statues, their expressions solemn and stern. Lin Chia's gaze swept over the tightly sealed giant doors behind them, then he calmly continued walking away. His brows furrowed slightly. How to sneak into the dungeon while being tracked by Tyr's sword and avoiding the Nordic War Division was a major problem. Moreover, the map only marked the location of the dungeon without showing its internal structure. With the Nordic War Division guarding it, Lin Chia dared not rashly use his spiritual power to probe below, so finding Jin Yan's position was also a challenge. Lin Chia pondered as he walked along the road, eventually arriving at a vast, magnificent square. White stone tiles covered the ground, remaining immaculately clean despite countless footsteps, sacred and mysterious. Lin Chia looked up and saw a black small mountain standing tall in the center of the square. Upon closer inspection, he vaguely recognized it as a statue of a deity. The surface of this statue was covered with a layer of black gauze, completely concealing its face. Lin Chia scanned the statue with his spiritual power, surprise appearing in his eyes. This was the statue of Odin, the former king of the Nordic gods. Looking like after Odin's true form was exposed, the attitude of the Asgardian gods toward him has indeed changed. Lin Chia thought to himself. Through his interactions with Thor and others during this time, as well as what he had seen and heard, Lin Chia could tell that the Asgardian gods' attitude toward Odin was somewhere between doubt and fear. Not everyone believed that Odin had colluded with Cthulhu, but the vast majority of those who had seen Odin's true form believed it without question, and had already grown fearful. Even when it came to a stone statue, they had to cover it up, trying to seek some psychological comfort. This is the Miracle Square. Lin Chia's gaze swept across the surroundings, casually finding a corner to sit down, and slowly closed his eyes. His consciousness quickly sank into the god's mental hospital in his mind. To my eternal beloved Aiden. I have received your reply and read it 5 times. Last night I placed it on my chest as I slept, hoping to dream of the scenes you described, but unfortunately I was not successful. Although I am still confined to the hospital and Dr. Lin won't let me go out thanks to your descriptions, I can already imagine how beautiful spring must be in Asgard. Is it similar to when we first met? Or even more beautiful? Do you remember, Aiden? It was also spring when I, lost and carrying my harp, clumsily stumbled into your secret garden. Mountains of flowers spread like a colorful sea, swaying in the fragrant breeze one wave after another. You wore a golden yellow dress, standing among the flowers, so youthful and full of vitality, like the most dazzling marigold blooming in the garden. You were so beautiful, Aiden, you were truly so beautiful. I still can't forget that scene. I heard from Dr. Lin that there's now something called a camera that can freeze moments and turn them into thin pieces of paper to keep forever. If only I had a camera back then, how wonderful it would have been. That would have been our eternal and unforgettable memory. The good news is that Dr. Lin says my treatment progress has reached 92%, and I'll be discharged soon. When that happens, I'll borrow a camera from Dr. Lin and return to our secret garden to capture that scene again. Don't worry, even after hundreds of years, your appearance hasn't aged at all. You're still the same as before, making me blush and my heart race. You are the spokesperson for youth, forever beautiful and full of vitality. As for the wild berries overrunning the garden that you mentioned, it is indeed a big problem for the garden. Unfortunately, I don't know how to manage gardens either. Perhaps you could consult Sif? She seems to know a lot about these things. Aren't you good sisters? If you can't find her, perhaps you could ask Thor. He's always very helpful and would certainly be willing to help. By the way, my dear, I also want to share something that makes me sad. Remember Sun Wukong, whom I mentioned in my previous letter? Just a few days ago he was discharged. To be honest, I was quite afraid of him at first. He and King Gigi were like two madmen who only knew how to fight, like an enhanced version of Tyr. But after getting to know him, I realized he wasn't what I imagined. Although he looked fierce, he was loyal and warm-hearted. You know what? A few days ago when King Gigi was bullied, he was the first to rush out and fight for him. Even though they normally act like enemies, they become good brothers in critical moments. But he's so cool. Even though he's a monkey, he's really amazing. If only I could be that powerful, then I could always protect you. I wonder if after all this time he also considers me a brother. Though that's probably unlikely, right? They are beings who stand at the pinnacle of gods, while I'm just an ordinary god of music. I can't even fight. My only use is to play the harp for them. But well, I don't have many grudges or grand ambitions. I just hope to leave this place soon to be with you in our secret garden, have a few children together. I'll teach them music, you'll teach them dancing, and we'll live a peaceful and fulfilling life. After Sun Wukong left, King Gigi also became somewhat depressed, probably because there's no one to fight with him anymore. I'm wondering if I actively sought him out to get beaten up, would it make him feel better? That's all for today, I need to go eat now. I'll be waiting for your reply. Your most loving Bragi. The afternoon sunlight shone through the clean window onto the white paper. Bragi wrote the last word, carefully read it from beginning to end, nodded with satisfaction, then carefully folded it and placed it in the mailbox at the corner of the desk. He stood up, picked up his harp and humming a tune walked out of the room. As soon as he went out, he bumped into Lin Chia, who was walking toward him. Dr. Lin? Good afternoon. Bragi greeted with a beaming smile. Good afternoon. Lin Chia raised his eyebrows in surprise. What's making you so happy? Oh, nothing. By the way, Dr. Lin, has my progress bar increased? About how long until I can be discharged? Bragi asked excitedly, pointing at the void above his head, his eyes shining. Lin Chia looked up and saw that his treatment progress had jumped to 93%, and nodded, saying, It's increased a bit. If you're in a hurry to leave, you can probably go in about a month or two. Lin Chia hesitated halfway through and said, I think leaving too early might be risky. You could stay here a bit longer. No, Dr. Lin, I'm in a hurry to leave. Aiden is waiting for me in Asgard. Bragi said seriously. I know you'll miss me, but I must go. Don't worry though, I'll bring Aiden back to see you. She's a wonderful girl who wants to thank you in person. Alright, I understand. Lin Chia gave Bragi a complicated look, sighed, and walked straight to the other end of the corridor. Among all the patients, Bragi was the one Lin Chia worried about the most. This wasn't because of his personality or his power. Lin Chia was concerned that if Bragi were to leave the hospital full of joy, only to eventually learn that Aiden was already dead, he would be devastated. Before completing his mission in Asgard, it would be best to find a way to keep Bragi from leaving. After everything was settled, he could then properly figure out how to solve this difficult problem. Lin Chia had just taken a few steps when he suddenly froze, as if remembering something. He needed to find a way to infiltrate Asgard's dungeon to rescue Genian, and right in front of him were two local deities who were very familiar with Asgard. Perhaps Bragi and Aiden knew about the situation inside the dungeon? Lin Chia turned his head to look at Bragi, who was quickly walking out with his harp in his arms. After hesitating for a moment, he still didn't call out to him. Recently, Bragi had been constantly talking about temporarily leaving the hospital to visit Asgard, and Lin Chia had been using the excuse of the distance being too far to delay him. If he suddenly asked about the situation in Asgard, it might expose the fact that he was actually in Asgard. After thinking it through, Lin Chia decided to wait until late at night to ask Aiden. Just then, a petite figure wearing a deep cyan orderly uniform was sneakily peeking from the end of the corridor. It was a small raccoon, carrying a large green bag on its back and holding a broom and dustpan in its arms. Its black eyes blinked a few times, confirming that Bragi had left before carefully stepping toward room 3. What are you doing? Lin Chia, standing in a blind spot at the doorway of room 3, asked curiously upon seeing this. The sudden voice startled the little raccoon, its fur almost standing on end, but after seeing it was Lin Chia, it patted its chest in relief and said quietly, "Director, I'm here to clean Bragi's room." Clean the room? Lin Chia raised an eyebrow. Does cleaning a room require being so sneaky? I have another task, a task given by Manager Lee. What task? The little raccoon pointed at the red mailbox sitting on the corner of Bragi's desk. Lin Chia seemed to realize something. You're here to clear his inventory? The little raccoon nodded, nimbly jumping onto Bragi's desk. It opened the red mailbox lid with its paw, and a pile of letters that had filled the mailbox immediately spilled out, almost covering the entire desktop. While picking up the letters one by one from the desk and stuffing them into the large bag on its back, it explained, "Bragi writes letters too frequently. Manager Lee said that if we don't collect them regularly, this mailbox will quickly become full. When that happens, new letters won't fit in and that would make him suspicious. So every few days I come to organize the mailbox and empty all the letters inside." "I'm not stealing anything." The little raccoon pouted, speaking softly. After stuffing most of the envelopes into the bag, it placed the newest letter that Bragi had just written back into the mailbox, carefully closing it without leaving any trace. It shouldered the bag, which was almost bigger than itself and stuffed to bursting, and jumped down from the desk. Lin Chia watched this scene without stopping it and actually felt somewhat gratified. Li Yifei was indeed managing the hospital very well, even considering that Bragi's mailbox might get full and assigning someone to clear it regularly. Even though there were now several hundred orderlies in the hospital, Lin Chia could still be a hands-off boss, which was inseparable from Li Yifei's management. So how are these letters handled? Lin Chia followed behind the little raccoon, asking curiously. Of course we keep them all. Manager Li said these are the embodiment of Bragi's love, and must all be preserved properly, not a single one can be lost, the little raccoon said matter-of-factly. It led Lin Chia through several corridors, finally arriving at a small warehouse. It jumped up about half a meter and opened the door. Lin Chia followed behind it, scanning the warehouse, and was slightly moved. The shelves in the warehouse were almost filled with Bragi's letters. Some were letters he had sent to Aiden and some were Aiden's replies. Each one was arranged in chronological order. Lin Chia estimated that there must be over 1,000 letters in this warehouse. In Lin Chia's mind, he pictured Bragi bending over his desk, carefully writing each letter stroke by stroke, and he let out a long sigh. "Director, why are you sighing?" The little raccoon scratched its head in confusion. "Is my arrangement not good enough?" "No, you've done very well." Lin Chia encouragingly patted the little raccoon's head, then walked out of the warehouse. The afternoon sunlight fell on him as he silently walked toward Li Yifei, who was sunbathing on a lounge chair at the edge of the courtyard. He patted Li Yifei's shoulder. "Who dares to disturb my sleep?" 7 night. The palm leaf fan covering Li Yifei's face slipped off, and he spoke with some displeasure, but upon seeing Lin Chia in his white coat, his eyes showed delight. Lin Chia smiled. "Come on, have a drink with me." To see Aiden, he had to wait until Bragi fell asleep. Lin Chia and Li Yifei sat on small stools in the courtyard, clinking glasses. The daylight at the horizon gradually disappeared as night approached. Lin Chia glanced at Bragi's brightly lit room on the second floor of the ward building and took a small sip of fruit wine from his cup. "So, you're worried that if Bragi learns the truth he'll lose emotional control?" Li Yifei asked thoughtfully. "It's not just about emotional control. The greater the hope, the greater the disappointment. All his fantasies about the future are like a gradually expanding bubble that could burst at any moment. And his psychological resilience isn't strong to begin with. I'm worried that after learning the truth, not only would his treatment progress rapidly decline, but he might also develop depression or other mental illnesses. There have been many such cases." Lin Chia paused. "So, I'm wondering if there's a way to achieve both objectives." "What kind of way? For example, separating them from one body? Their hearts are connected. How can they be separated?" I asked Merlin about this possibility at the time. He said even magic couldn't achieve this, but he didn't rule out the possibility that someone might be able to do it. "If it really can't be done, I might have to try using the Holy Grail, to make a wish. Lin Chia looked at the darkened room 3, his eyes incredibly complex. I gave him this beautiful fantasy. I can't just watch him sink into despair. Li Yifei nodded. Do you have any leads now? Not yet. My physical body is in Asgard right now and I'm a bit stretched thin. But perhaps Asgard will provide an opportunity to completely cure him. I still need time to search. Fortunately, his treatment progress hasn't reached 95% yet, so he can't see the outside world. Otherwise, things would be complicated. Lin Chia drained the fruit wine from his cup in one gulp. I'll go find Aiden first. We'll drink together again next time I'm free. Sure thing. Li Fei grinned. Lin Chia took a deep breath and walked directly toward room 3, which had fallen into darkness. Knock knock knock. After a few light knocks, Lin Chia slowly pushed open the door. The dim candlelight danced on the corner of the wooden table, illuminating the bright red mailbox. At the table corner, Bragi, draped in a light veil, sat upright holding a quill pen dipped in ink, earnestly writing something on paper. Hearing Lin Chia's knock, he turned his head, his crimson lips parting slightly, surprise appearing in his eyes. Greetings, Director Lin. Bragi. No, it should be Eden, rose gracefully from her seat, lifted the hem of her gauzy dress and slightly bowed, giving Lin Chia a Western-style curtsy. Lin Chia smiled and said, No need to be so formal. He walked into the room, his gaze sweeping over the neatly written letter in front of Eden and asked, Writing a letter? Yes. Eden looked at Bragi's opened letter beside the red mailbox and smiled, saying, He shared many things with me again today and I haven't finished answering everything yet. Is there something you need, Director Lin? Nothing major, I just came to check on you and I have a few questions to ask. Lin Chia sat down on the other side of the table, carefully examining Eden before him. Although she was using Bragi's body, Bragi was already handsome and beautiful. Combined with Eden's gentle and graceful demeanor, she appeared even more feminine. In the yellow candlelight, Lin Chia felt somewhat unfamiliar with the sight. How have you been lately? About the same as before. Eden turned her head, glancing at Bragi in the mirror and smiled. Every night after he falls asleep, I borrow his body to read and write letters. He's always sharing his life in the hospital with me. Although we haven't been able to meet face to face, I'm still happy. The only pity is that I don't have much to share with him. I can only keep making up stories about my life in Asgard. Today the flowers in the yard grew too fast, tomorrow I'll be playing with some goddess. But no matter what I make up, he takes it all seriously, then excitedly discusses it with me for several pages. Eden looked at Bragi in the mirror, her expression growing softer. She wore a sweet smile, as if seeing Bragi sitting at this very table in the afternoon, writing fervently. Watching this scene, Lin Chia's feelings became increasingly complex. Two people in love, so close they could hear each other's heartbeats, yet forever unable to meet. Fantasy and letters were the only ways their souls could connect. This was eternal love, but also eternal torment. I will find a way for you two to meet again, Lin Chia said solemnly. Eden didn't speak. She silently nodded, the light in her eyes gradually dimming, as if she no longer held much hope for this. This heart was placed in Bragi's chest by her own hands. She knew clearly that separating them wouldn't be simple, as it involved the entanglement of physical bodies and the compatibility of souls. After all, situations where even Merlin, the god of magic, was helpless were rare in this world. Director Lin, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask, Eden proactively said, as if remembering something. Lin Chia nodded and said, I'll ask directly. How much do you know about Asgard's Abyss Dungeon? The Abyss Dungeon? Hearing these words, Eden frowned. Are you in Asgard now? Yes, I need to rescue someone from the Abyss Dungeon. Eden pondered with a grave expression for a moment, then continued. Director Lin, I must warn you that rescuing someone from the Abyss Dungeon is no simple task. Those imprisoned there are Asgard's most important criminals. I was ordered to go in there a few times to heal some dying prisoners, and I know how terrifying it is inside. I understand, Lin Chia said firmly, but I must go. It had been 2 days since Jinyan was imprisoned in the Abyss Dungeon. Although Lin Chia didn't know exactly what conditions were like inside, from Thor and others' words, the punishments for prisoners must be extremely cruel. He didn't know Jinyan's current state or how much longer he could endure the torture. He needed to take action quickly. Seeing his determination, Eden stopped trying to dissuade him and instead took a blank piece of paper and began to sketch carefully. I remember the layout of the dungeon quite well, but I'm not sure if they've made any changes over the years. Under Lin Chia's watchful gaze, Eden quickly drew a simple map of the Abyss dungeon, marking the core area where prisoners were held and the approximate patrol points. Seeing this map, Lin Chia's eyes lit up. Having this sketch would save a lot of trouble. At least he wouldn't have to wander around like a headless fly looking for where Jin Yen was being held. What's this? Lin Chia reached out, pointing to a red dot above the core area, asking curiously. That's Fenrir, Eden said gravely. He is Loki's offspring and also the fierce divine beast guarding the Abyss. He feeds on the fear and pain of the Abyss dungeon. Usually he just lies quietly sleeping above the prison, but once an outsider enters the dungeon he immediately smells them and tears them to pieces. Even the main gods might not be able to defeat him. Combined with the Norse battle division guarding the surroundings, trying to break into the dungeon to rescue a prisoner is nearly impossible. Lin Chia's expression visibly grew more serious. He had heard of Fenrir's reputation in the training camp. This creature guarding directly above the Abyss dungeon was definitely a deadly threat. With Lin Chia's current strength he might not even be able to withstand a single blow from it. How should he deal with this creature? Lin Chia pondered hard for a long time but couldn't find an answer. With no choice he stood up to bid farewell to Eden and returned his consciousness to the real world. When Lin Chia opened his eyes he realized that Asgard's sky had also fallen into darkness. He had been sitting there from afternoon until late night. The miracle square around him was completely empty, and even the little bug that had been following Lin Chia had disappeared without a trace. Most likely number 22's mental energy had been exhausted. Spending so much mental energy only to watch him sightseeing in Asgard all day, number 22 was probably furious enough to cough blood by now. Just as Lin Chia stood up to leave, a smoke-like black shadow suddenly flew from the distance and crashed directly into Lin Chia's shadow. This wisp of smoke collided with the shadow in an instant, and Lin Chia felt a chill down his back, a strange coldness rising from his feet to his heart. Before Lin Chia could come to his senses, a weak voice sounded in his ear. "Smee. Get out of here quickly. They're about to catch up." It was the voice of number 27. Lin Chia didn't say another word and immediately set off, walking quickly toward the nearby street. Just as his figure disappeared from Miracle Square, several silhouettes descended from the sky carrying terrifying divine might, looking around with furrowed brows. "Thor, are you sure you saw him run this way?" a tall, imposing deity wearing battle armor asked in a deep voice. "I'm certain," Thor said firmly, his eyes containing lightning scanning the surroundings. "The Rainbow Bridge is broken now. No one can leave Asgard, especially since he was struck by my lightning. He can't have gone far, he must be nearby. Split up and search." As the deity's words fell, the Norse battle division immediately dispersed in all directions, searching along the staggered streets bit by bit. Not far away, Lin Chia moved through the streets, feeling the powerful divine force coming from behind, his brow furrowing deeper. "What's happening?" "I'm being hunted," number 27 weakly replied. "Thor's lightning is my nemesis. No matter how I run he can catch up to me. And now all of Asgard is sealed off. I can't escape. I can only keep fleeing through various divine realms, until just now when I happened to run into you at Miracle Square. Don't panic, I'm just using your body as cover to temporarily recover some strength. When you reach the second corner ahead I'll jump into the holy river from there. I won't burden you." Lin Chia quickened his pace while asking in a low voice, "Jump into the holy river? Are you sure this will help you escape their pursuit?" "Not certain, but I have to try." After speaking, number 27 fell silent, seemingly focusing all energy on suppressing his injuries, with only heavy breathing echoing in Lin Chia's ears. Lin Chia followed number 27's directions, walking through 2 streets in succession, feeling the divine power gradually closing in from behind, sweat beginning to form on his temples. In this situation he absolutely couldn't rashly use his abilities to fly over this area, nor could he sprint at full speed. In the eyes of those searching deities, this would be like announcing his presence, only attracting their attention faster. Moreover, in terms of speed, Lin Chia didn't think he could break through the Norse battle division's encirclement. He had to appear as natural as possible to prevent the Norse battle division from discovering anything suspicious. Unfortunately, there were very few pedestrians on Asgard's streets so late at night, and those deities conducting their carpet search soon noticed Lin Chia walking alone on the street. After a moment's hesitation, they all flew toward him. "They've noticed us. I should go." Number 27 keenly sensed the gods turning toward them and spoke reluctantly. "But we're still far from the holy river. Are you sure you can break through their encirclement?" "I have no choice." At this moment, Number 27's voice also became calm. "If I don't leave now, you'll be caught with me." Number 27's form transformed into a wisp of smoke, about to leave Lin Chia's body when suddenly, Lin Chia seemed to think of something, a gleam flashing in his eyes. "Wait." Lin Chia suddenly spoke up. "Can you turn into gas and hide in my lungs?" "I can, but such a small trick won't fool them. They have deities skilled at seeing through invisibility who can spot me inside your flesh with one glance." "Don't worry about that, just get in quickly." "Are you sure? If we're discovered, you'll die with me." "Stop talking. They're coming." At Lin Chia's murmur, Number 27 finally floated up and was drawn into Lin Chia's lungs with his inhaled breath, disappearing without a trace. Lin Chia frowned and couldn't help but lower his head to cough twice. "It's you." Almost simultaneously, a bolt of lightning struck from the sky, transforming into a figure wearing a red cape, standing in front of Lin Chia. Thor examined him carefully and asked puzzledly, "What are you doing here?" "Lord Thor," Lin Chia spoke with feigned surprise. "After we returned to Asgard, Lord Tyr left marks on us and then let us move freely. Since this is my first time in Asgard, I thought I'd look around." "What are you?" Lin Chia voluntarily lifted his collar, showing Thor the red mark left by Tyr. Seeing the mark, Thor's face showed understanding. He nodded. "Did you see anything fly past here just now?" "Anything?" Lin Chia thought carefully. "I don't think so." Several figures slowly descended beside Thor, their gazes falling on Lin Chia, wariness immediately appearing in their eyes. "Who are you? Why haven't we seen you before?" "He was brought back by me, the proxy of Merlin, god of magic and prophecy," Thor explained to the Norse battle division, and their gazes softened somewhat. The deity in battle armor who led them carefully examined Lin Chia and solemnly said to a deity beside him, "Check him." "Yes." Among the Norse battle division, one deity first slowly closed his eyes, then suddenly opened them, his pupils glowing with a cyan light. He stared at Lin Chia for a long time, the light in his eyes gradually fading. "No problem. Let's go continue searching." Hearing this, the deity in battle armor immediately lost interest in Lin Chia and waved his hand, leading the many deities to rise into the air and continue flying in all directions. Thor didn't rush to fly away with them, but instead patted Lin Chia's shoulder and said, "If you have nowhere to go, return to my temple. Someone will arrange accommodations for you." With those words, his form transformed into a bolt of lightning and quickly disappeared. Lin Chia stood in place, waiting until all the deities had gone far away before letting out a long breath, his back already soaked with cold sweat. Using the perfect disguise he had previously wished for with the Holy Grail, he successfully deceived the deity responsible for detection, not only concealing his true identity but also hiding number 27 within his body. What surprised Lin Chia, however, was that Thor had proactively offered him a place to stay, probably assuming he had nowhere to go after seeing him wandering alone on the streets at night. It seemed Thor was actually quite a decent person. Lin Chia didn't rush to release number 27, but instead walked directly to Thor's temple, where a maid guided him to a fairly spacious dwelling behind the temple. Lin Chia closed the door behind him, swept the surroundings with his mental power to confirm no one was monitoring him, and then spoke in a low voice. "You can come out now." Upper Evil Society Headquarters. Utopia. Inside the research facility, several figures hurried through the corridor. Knight frowned and asked, "A distress signal? What happened?" "About 2 days ago, while you were on a mission in North America with the others, we received a fragment of a distress signal from the chairwoman, but it only lasted for 0.3 seconds before disappearing," a member of the Upper Evil Society beside him said solemnly, handing a pixel tablet to Knight. Knight took the tablet and reviewed it with a grave expression. "It only lasted 0.3 seconds? "Correct. We speculate it might be because the mist interfered with the signal transmission or perhaps Some other massive external force disrupted the signal source. Such as divine power. Hearing these two words, Knight's eyes narrowed. Did the chairwoman mention why she was going? Yes, she said Lin Chia was in danger and she was going to rescue him. She also asked us to keep it confidential temporarily and not tell his teammates. Lin Chia in danger? What kind of danger? The Upper Evil Society member repeated the message that He Lin had brought back. 3 Olympian gods? That doesn't make sense. Even if the chairwoman encountered them, she should have been able to escape even if she couldn't win. Knight's frown deepened. What's going on? What should we do next? Don't panic. The chairwoman is tough. She won't go down easily. Knight pondered for a moment before calmly saying, first, send a team to follow He Lin to search the place where Lin Chia encountered danger, see if there are any clues. Also, immediately issue an upper evil order for all special envoys on missions in the mist to return to Utopia at once. Yes. Utopia. Meanwhile, 2 pixel glasses clinked together, the golden liquid swirling and emitting the fresh aroma of barley. Chao Yuan drained his glass in one gulp. Sitting on the black sofa, he calmly placed his glass back on the table and said softly, Little Jia, how have we treated you these past few days? Beside him, a tall, handsome Western man with blonde hair and blue eyes suddenly froze, then answered in broken Chinese, Brother Chao treats me very well, of course. Then if I'm in trouble, will you help me? I will. He nodded firmly. In that case, I'll get straight to the point. Chao Yuan paused, his sharp eyes calmly fixed on little Jia. Tell me, has anything major happened recently? Major? If I remember correctly, Lin Chia left with your people to attend some meeting almost a week ago and hasn't returned yet. And in the past couple of days, your chairwoman seems to have disappeared as well. Chao Yuan's eyes narrowed. Little Jia, your Upper Evil Society, you're not hiding something from us, are you? Hearing this, little Jia's heart sank. He scratched his head. Well, little Jia, I trust you and the Upper Evil Society. If something really happened, I believe it's not your fault. But if you continue to hide things from us, I'm afraid we can't remain brothers. As Chao Yuan's voice grew increasingly cold, little Jia's forehead began to bead with sweat. After struggling internally for a while, he gritted his teeth and finally said, Fine, even if I don't tell you now, it can't be hidden for long anyway. Lin Chia and our chairwoman have both disappeared. Disappeared. Chao Yuan's brows furrowed. When did this happen? I only learned the details this morning myself. Here's what happened. Little Jia explained the whole situation to Chao Yuan in detail. After listening, the latter fell silent. Brother Chao, it's not that I didn't want to tell you. It's just that the chairwoman gave strict orders, and since it involves gods, you wouldn't be able to help much even if you went. Little Jia tried to explain. I understand. Before little Jia could finish explaining, Chao Yuan stood up and quickly left the private room with a grave expression. After turning several corners, he knocked on the door of another private room. How did it go on your end? Bai Li Pangpang sat alone in the room, his expression equally serious. I found out. So did I. Bai Li Pangpang compared the intelligence he had obtained from another Upper Evil Society member with Chao Yuan's information. They matched perfectly. The Upper Evil Society has no reason to lie to us. Seems Jin Yan and Chia really are in trouble. Pangpang, your intuition was right, Chao Yuan sighed deeply. Let's go find Knight. As Bai Li Pangpang and Chao Yuan left the bar and walked a few steps, they stopped. Looking at several black dots approaching in the distance, Bai Li Pangpang smiled wryly. Looks like we don't need to find him. A howling gust of wind swept across the street as Knight, accompanied by several Upper Evil Society members, flew at an astonishing speed to the entrance of the bar. Seeing Chao Yuan and Bai Li Pangpang, his face showed remorse. I'm truly sorry, both of you, about the previous matter. It's fine, I understand Chairwoman Ji's intentions. Now is not the time to discuss this, Chao Yuan said resignedly. Have you located them? I've dispatched a team to search for clues at their last known location, but we can't determine their exact position yet, Knight sighed deeply. In the mist, except for the chairwoman's special communicators, all electronic components are disrupted. It's very difficult to locate them using scientific methods. Do either of you have any other ideas? Bai Li Pangpang and Chao Yuan exchanged glances, both seeing the helplessness in each other's eyes. We don't have a solution either, but... Bai Li Pang changed his tone. There might be someone who can help. Who? Knight immediately asked. Bai Li Pang didn't speak, but silently turned his head to look in a particular direction. Utopia. Research Institute Number 3 entrance. You want to see Director N? A researcher in a white lab coat spoke with some concern. But Director N is currently conducting dissection work with our research team, I'm afraid. Please pass along a message for us, Bai Li Pang said solemnly. Tell him that Chier is in trouble. This. Go quickly, Knight added. It's a matter of great importance. The research can wait for now. The researcher hesitated for a moment, then nodded and walked quickly back into the institute. The group waited at the entrance for barely a minute before a red and white figure carrying a black coffin on his back suddenly pushed open the main doors of the research institute and walked out.